Quincy Wilson, Jake Odey-Jordan, Tate Taylor, Maxwell twins, Natalie Dumas, Joshua Kai Smith, Andrew Jones, Jaden DeLeon, Sophie Rambo, and even all the top Jamaican high school programs. Holland High School, Jamaica College, Heidel, Excelsior. They are all coming to Morgan State University this weekend, courtesy of my special guest today on In Full Stride, Sanjay Ayre. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks for having me, Carson. It's always a pleasure. It's always a pleasure.
As it has been on my end, getting to witness the East Coast International Showcase last year, getting to witness New York International Showcase this year. And no matter what happens this weekend, I know it's going to be a great show. And I just wanted to have you on to really talk about how you gained this vision because you started out, Sanjay, with one of the most prestigious backgrounds that the sport has to offer. Would you like to educate those that are unfamiliar with just your upbringing in track and field?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So I was born and raised in Jamaica. I was a U20 champion in Jamaica. Then I migrated to the States my junior year of high school in New York City at DeWitt Clinton. While at DeWitt Clinton, I was the U.S. High School National Champion indoor in the 400 and outdoor in the 400 my senior year of high school. Then I went on to Auburn University. As a freshman at Auburn University, I went to my first Olympics and I won an Olympic silver medal. I went on to represent Jamaica at two more Olympics after that. I'm a three-time Olympian, world championship gold medalist. And throughout my athletic career, I have won over 20 international medals, both at the U20 level and at the senior level. Um, these days, I do all things related to sports and training and athletes. I'm the CEO of Twiga Sports and Entertainment, and I am the meet founder for the New York International Showcase and the East Coast International Showcase.
Absolutely. Thank you again for that big introduction, Sanjay. And you mentioned a lot of your accolades that you started with, right? High school national champion, indoors and outdoors. Many of your athletes that you're welcoming in from the States, from Jamaica, from Boys and Girls Champs, they can say that they've shared those accolades from you, but a lot of them, besides maybe the Quincy Wilsons of the world, can say that they've reached Olympic medalist status. And so, how
Yes.
important for you is it to gather all of these super talented athletes in one place to really get them used to the kind of environment that it could take to get to those Olympic levels like you have yourself?
Yeah. Well, I think Carson, it all started with my experience. What we see the Maxwell twins doing now, and Jake Jordan and Quincy Wilson, what they're doing now, I did it in high school. Almost 30 years ago, I was a super elite high school athlete. This was long before NIL. And my dream at 17 years old was to make it to the Olympics as a high schooler. Um, my freshman year of college, fresh out of high school, I made it Olympics. So I have a general idea of what it takes to be an elite high school athlete and how to matriculate and move up to the next level as a professional. One of the things that helped me when I was a high schooler is running elite invitational races. And these elite invitational races were through maybe a pro track meet or a collegiate meet where they would let high schoolers in. Back when I was coming up, it was only a few elite high school athletes. Now we're seeing a whole bunch of elite athletes who are high schoolers and they're beating Olympians, they're beating professional athletes, they're beating collegiate athletes. And what this does, it helps with their marketability. And events like this that attract elite high school athletes when they compete at this high level. It draws a lot of interest from shoe companies, from other brands, from from companies that they could possibly get deals from to do NIL. And as I said, it's just my experience with the product coming through as a high schooler. And I knew to myself that when I was in a position to influence, I could create something for them, and this is my creation, and it continues to elevate the level of the sport at the high school level. And quite frankly, the high school generation of today, these are some of the high schoolers who are going to be vying for Team USA or Team Jamaica or Team Canada Olympic spots in 2 years at the 2028 Olympic in Los Angeles. So a meet like this is just the stepping stone for them to race against the best at their level, and pressure situations like this for them prepares them for what they have to face in college next year or at the Olympics in 2 years.
Hmm. And I want to touch on, having been able to build your meet these past few years, right? Because it is not easy, as I'm sure you know, to start something from basically the ground up. Obviously, you could gain some good partnerships with shoe companies like Puma through the years. You got your own company, Two Eagle Sports, and others that have really paid, a lot of work into it. But to make your meet stand out, when you got other meets on the scene, you got some indoor big meets like the VA Showcase, you got all the indoor and outdoor high school nationals meets. But one that yours really emphasizes, maybe some others like VA Showcase and Penn Incorporated, but the international factor. You talked about getting athletes to the Olympic stage. That's an international stage. What really made you, even though you've moved to the States and started your own company in the Baltimore area, want to bring back your own home nation of Jamaica and beyond into the equation?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I just think rivalry sells. And if you look at the pen relays this weekend, when Quincy Wilson came through the line, he pointed the baton to the Jamaican section coming through the finish line. That's box office. People love rivalry, and what more rivalry do you want more than the two powerhouse countries in track and field, Jamaica and the US? And it wouldn't be interesting or intriguing to have the East Coast International Showcase with just our American athletes. When you bring the foreign athletes to the equation, it draws a little bit more interest and a little bit more camaraderie, and national pride, fighting for your country, fighting for your school. It's one thing to race against high school rivals here in the US. But when you race against an international rival from, like, say, Canada or Jamaica or Trinidad and Tobago or one of the smaller islands, it brings more interest, to the sport. And that concept that I started 5 years ago has really built up and elevated the meet to another level. I knew I didn't want to do like a relay concept because obviously the pen relays have had that concept for, 150 years. Um, my meet is kind of like a preview to U20s, and then U20s is what, every 2 to 4 years, so not often we get to see the premier talent from other countries racing against our American kids. And you take, for example, this weekend, like some of the medal favorites for U20s, they're going to be competing, on Saturday, and it's truly a preview. And we are going to continue to elevate the meet for years to come. And the only way we could keep the consistency and interest is if we continue to bring top talent in, because people want to see the best athletes race against each other.
Glad you mentioned some of the medal favorites that are coming to Baltimore this weekend for the World Under 20 Championships that are happening at Hayward, because we've literally seen Tracktown USA start a series on a few of them. I know Natalie Dumas was part of that. Tate Taylor's been a part of that. they've already been kicking some tail in the early stages of their senior outdoor seasons, and they're just two of the slices of this equation. You mentioned the Maxwell twins and what they're doing, but one athlete that I know you've been super proud to usher along this journey has been the Shanoya Douglas of Holland High School, formerly
Yes.
of Mouchette. But I mean, this is a young lady that, as a high schooler, broke 11 seconds in the 100. She nearly broke 22 seconds in the 200. So, as much as we've reveled in the accomplishments of the Maxwell twins, this is a way, your meet almost, to show the world that there are equal talents from them beyond the United States borders. It's
From the
awesome.
United States. Yeah. And it's good, Carson, because you've kind of been through the process with the meet from the beginning. This is year 5, but I could strongly say that the East Coast International Showcase like really discovered Shanoya Douglas. Like when Shanoya came to our meet 4 years ago as a freshman in high school, it was her first international experience on US soil, you know? And I remember she ran in the cold and I said to her, she's like, Mr. Sanjay, I'm freezing. And I said, hey, Shanoya, these are the elements of whether you're going to run in if you go to college and you might race at the Olympics in the rain, you know? And she took these experiences and each year we saw her grow better, you know? Last year, for example, at the New York International Showcase in 2025, it was her very first time competing on an indoor track, you know? Um, and her experience wasn't the greatest in terms of how to execute, but she went out there and she did her best. And then this year, she came back to New York the second time, which was her second time on an indoor track. And Shanoya went on to break the Jamaican national record in the 300 meters. You know, so it's the meet is very indicative of how we could create opportunities, especially for international athletes that never ran in certain events before. Um, and it gives them experience to increase their talent levels and look where Shanoya is today. It's April um 27th, and as you said, Carson, she ran 10:9 and 22:11, I think, two of the fastest U20 times in the world. And it's coming through these type of events that we host that has really helped her to gain experience to where she's now a super athlete. And I think if she kind of stayed local in Jamaica and just raced in Jamaica, a lot of the American media and American athletes wouldn't know about her. But because of her coming to the East Coast and New York over the last 4 years, everybody know who Shania is now, and she's a global superstar, especially here in the U.S. and Jamaica.
Countless examples I can think of as I've come to know your meets more, Sanjay, that have really developed through this meet. Quincy Wilson, he has won twice in the 400. You've got Jaden Horton Mims, who beat Quincy to make a name for himself, just as Andrew Salvadon had done at VA Showcase. Andrew was third in that
Yes,
epic 400 race last year. And then Jaden going on to the 200 to beat Jake Odey-Jordan. Even further back, the man who became the world indoor champion over 60 meters. We've known him for being the
yes,
Bowerman Award winner in Arkansas, but wasn't it at the very first East Coast International or the
yeah.
second Jordan Anthony. Jordan
It was
Anthony
it
came
was the
through your
very
meet.
first, yeah. Yeah. So we introduced Jordan Anthony at the very first East Coast. We introduced him to the meet. A lot of people didn't know about Jordan Anthony before that race. And another thing that a lot of people don't realize in that same race with Jordan Anthony, the guy who won the race, Brian Lavelle, he's actually the world championship bronze medalist at 200 from Tokyo last year. You know, so Jordan and Brian Lavelle were both rivals in high school at that race, and both of them went on to be great professionals with Brian Lavelle being the world championship bronze medalist at 200. He currently has a personal best of 19.7 and 9.8 in the 100. And then obviously Jordan Anthony being the world indoor champion. So it's indicative in just a short time in 4 years what we have been able to produce in terms of introducing high school athletes, to the elite high school space, and where they've reached now, already attaining world medals and world indoor medals.
So, for our viewers, you've probably heard at least one name by now that you recognize, if not every single name. There are household names galore, past and present, that have come through Sanjay's showcase meets. But let's talk about the state of track and field as you saw it before you began this epic series that is now about to reach its fifth year outdoors. What did you see in the landscape of the sport and the need for change, need for something new?
Yeah. Well, for me, Carson, I think a lot of interviews I do, I keep preaching the same thing. We need more influential people in the sport to put on, you know, intriguing events, big events that could draw interest to track and field. Um, Here in the US, the sports that dominate media would be, football, basketball, baseball, and I think if we could get higher level meets at this type of level where people are seeing the best athletes compete, it's going to draw interest to the sports. Because we have track meets, we have thousands of track meets weekly, or should I say hundreds of trap meets weekly. But what we don't have is the best kids racing each other, you know? And once we start creating that type of atmosphere where kids break records and go viral for beating Olympians and stuff like that, it's going to bring new fans into the sport. And once new fans come into the sport, new sponsors are going to come into the sport and elevate the sport. So we just keep, need to keep on creating these type of sporting events. Yeah.
Mhm. And I had assumed that that vision wasn't born overnight. How far can you trace back your vision to start the showcase series that you've now built 5 years going strong?
Yeah. Well, I think this has been in the plan pre-pandemic. I would probably say around 2018, 2019, around there. I knew I wanted to do something. Um, Good events like these, it takes a lot of financial resources. You're flying in athletes from across the world, from the West Coast down south. You're waiving meet entry fees. You're putting these athletes in hotels. You're paying a big staff. It's very costly. So just trying to get sponsorship and invest in a lot of my own funds to make it successful. And that's why, we ask the fans to come out. We ask the fans to buy a ticket, come and support, because the money that we invest, into to bringing these amazing athletes and team to the meet, we just get in a slight margin of profit, coming back from the investment. I could probably say in the 5 years that we've had the meet, I've probably made a profit once, but I don't come into this business trying to make millions of dollars. I came into it to really promote track and field and give our high school athletes a platform to do well and showcase their talent and get some university scholarship offers.
Definitely. Please, Sanjay, let us know, let all of our fans know that are interested in the Baltimore area and beyond, that want to make their way to Morgan State University, Hughes Memorial Stadium, to witness all the action. Where can tickets be purchased or
Yeah.
more information be learned about the showcase?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So our meet is this weekend, May 2nd and 3rd. And if you want to purchase tickets, advance tickets, you could go on FreshTix.com and just look up the East Coast International Showcase, or you could just simply go to our meet website, which is eastcoasttrackandfield.com, and advance ticket purchases are there. The meet schedule and all information about her meet is on the website. So that is eastcoasttrackandfield.com.
Absolutely. We'll leave a link to that in the description and you'll see it on your screen as well. Meanwhile, but of course on Instagram as well, ECIS_showcase with a whole lot of the featured matchups. That's really been a theme that I've come to learn about your meet. It's about the clash ups, the matchups, the stars aligning. That's this year's outdoor theme. We mentioned some of the names. What are going to be some of the premier marquee matchups that you're going to be putting on this weekend?
Yeah. Well, I think the marquee matchups would probably come. The biggest one that I'm anticipating would be the USATF section women's 400 meters. Um, we have three girls in that race running 51 seconds. And
51. Oh
51
boy.
seconds. And then Mariah Maxwell has also stepped up to race in the 400 in that meet,
Ooh.
in that race. So we have some fantastic girls in that race. Um, and obviously Quincy Wilson, we're not sure what event he's going to race in as yet. We would love to see him in the 400 against Jaden DeLeon, a quick rematch. That would be good. And then Tate Taylor and Jake Odey-Jordan in the 200 should be another great race. We have young athletes like Cameron Daly. Cameron Daly is in the 200 and 400. Shanoya Douglas is also running the 100, 200. She's in the high school division because she's competing for her high school. Sophie Rambo, she's in the high school division, running against some amazing talent in the 400. So that's all across the board. Um, the 400 hurdle female is another intriguing event. We have Nastasia Fletcher, who is the Jamaican 400-meter hurdle champion. She's potentially going to race against Natalie Dumas in the four hurdles. We are talking about
Wow.
girls who are 57, 58-second 400-meter hurdlers.
I mean,
Yeah, so
Miss Fletcher, yeah,
it's
she's go ahead. I'll let you finish.
yeah, we saw her anchor that Heidel 4x4
You took the words out
to
of my mouth.
victory.
Yep.
Yeah,
51
yeah.
second splitter on anchor.
Yeah,
Unreal.
and then we have young middle school athletes like for example, Gunnar Hammett would be running the 800. He's going after a world record, a U13 world record at 800. He'll be racing, and then there's just a host of a lot of great athletes. A lot of great
Yeah.
athletes.
That,
So
yeah.
it's what we have now on paper looks good, but let's hope on Saturday everything plays out well and we get some good entertainment and some good matchups.
I mean, just listening to those names, I'm already hooked, as many of you, I'm sure, are too. You mentioned Gunnar Hammett, though. That's one other thing I wanted to ask you about, too. Opening this up to a lot of the younger athletes. How do you hope this inspires them as they're in this same environment as a lot of these top under 20 talents, in seniorship of high school? How do you hope to
Yeah.
inspire the next generation of track and field?
Huge. I mean, I could keep using examples for days. Remember Carson last year at the meet, we introduced the middle schoolers for the first time, and we had Stefan Lyon run 10-6 in the 100 meters, which was just totally ridiculous for like a
Yeah.
14-year-old. And his race, if you go back and you look on the ECIS Instagram page and even Mospit, you'll see that race was the most watched race on on social media, like over 1 million views on our Instagram platform. Like his 10.6 went viral. Like he ran so far fast. A lot of the fans were debating, did this guy false start? And then
He
he
reacted
came
so
back
perfectly to the gun. Yeah.
so perfectly to the gun. And then this year he came back and he's the 200-meter indoor national champion. And we could say that, you know, introducing him at the East Coast last year really introduced him to the world. And he came his first year of high school and he's doing amazing. So I am hoping this year in our middle school section, we will discover the next big talent for high school for next year.
Yeah.
We have some great middle schoolers who are going to race, and we are hoping maybe one or two would have some fantastic performances, and it would translate for them next year when they're in high school. Maya Arundel is another one, Carson.
Yep.
She won the women's middle school 400 last year. She ran 52.9 at the meet in middle school, and
I
she
was
got recruited to
speechless.
Bullis.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. So, it's let's get your popcorn ready. It's going to be a lot of surprises, because
Mhm.
we have great athletes. Whenever you put good athletes together, um, on a heat sheet or a start list, you could really get prepared for some crazy times, and that's what we're looking for.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of these youth stages can get overlooked, right? We're focusing all about these top high schoolers, the Quincy's, the Jakes, the Tates, the Andrew Jones and Joshua Kai Smiths on the hurdles front, and all of their female counterparts, Sophie, Maya. I mean, I could just name a who's who at this point. But then you got the next generation that's literally going to be following in their footsteps, and it is all happening
Yes.
at your meets. What kind of honor does that give you to know that your vision is playing out? It is heading in that upward direction.
Yeah. Well, I feel honored, and I see the impact it's made in my life, because now when I go to track meets, like people come up to me, people that I don't know, and they thank me, Sanjay, thank you for putting on such amazing events for these young athletes. And it's so refreshing for me, because as I said, I didn't come into this to really, make financial gain. I came back in it to, give back to the sport that made me the man I am. And it brings tears to my eyes to see how much people appreciate me when I'm out in public. I was at the pen relays and kids are stopping me, asking to take pictures. I feel like a celebrity again, And I retired as an Olympic athlete, way back in 2012, So this is kind of like a reinvention, for myself, being a meet director, being a meet founder, knowing that I'm truly making a impact in these young people's lives.
Yeah, that's awesome that you can take that inspiration and, be in that position of honor. I want to know though, for you, when you were younger, observing the scene, observing the need that this sport has for rivalries and competition, what great inspirations did you have to really show you that message and that theming?
Um, in what do you mean in terms of inspiration? Like seeing other athletes having rivalries in track and field, as a young athlete? What could you elaborate a little bit more?
Sure, I think it can be answered from a number of angles. So you could either take the angle of that, right, observing other rivalries in the sport, or just like direct influences on you, like people that influenced you to develop your vision.
Okay, okay. Um, I think when I was in high school, the main rivals I wanted to see was Michael Johnson and Donovan Bailey.
Ah, boy, yeah.
Michael. Yeah, Michael was the Olympic champion at 200 meters, and Donovan Bailey was the Olympic champion at 100. And one meet promoter came up with a great concept of those two guys clashing in a 150 race in Canada indoor, like meeting halfway in distance. And Donovan Bailey beat Michael Johnson, and it
Yeah.
was it was so much fanfare around that race, and it brought a lot of publicity to track, you know. So when I was thinking about, the showcase and how athletes could go head to head, that clash, 30 odd years ago stuck out in my mind, Um, and seeing Jaden Horton and Mims and Quincy clashing last year and going viral, it kind of relived the moment for me, in my youthful years, I think the older generation could relate to that story because they would remember that happening, in the late 90s. And drawing inspiration, who would I draw inspiration from? I think the one athlete that like really inspired me, um, Jamaica had a great female sprinter way back in the days by the name of Merlin Oddie.
I thought that's who you were going to
Like
say.
she
Yes.
really, yeah, yeah, she really inspired me because um, she ran maybe like 6 or 7 Olympics, and she never won a gold medal, but she always made the final, and she always came second and third. She was
Yeah.
always underdog, and she kept on trying. And I said to myself, Merlene is a great example of how you should carry yourself in athletics. Just die hard, never give up,
Yeah.
and I kind of got that from her. I got that from her in track and dealing with the track business. And then I had many teammates from my very first Olympics who inspired me. Um, Athletes that you probably don't know their names. Um, Gregory Horton. He was a 400-meter bronze medalist at the Olympics back in 2000. And a couple of my teammates that we won medals with, because my first Olympics, I was 19. Like the senior guys on my relay and on my team, they were in their 30s, So they were like unks to me.
Uh-huh.
They were like unks to me. Like that generation of Jamaican athletes when I was 19, 20, like the Quincy Wilson of Jamaica on the Olympic team, the
Yeah.
the
Competing with
unks, like they
so
they
those are
took me
your
like
Vernon
the
Norwoods,
Ver, the
right? Yeah.
Vernon Norwoods. Yeah. So
Yeah.
my Vernon Norwood was Davian Clark,
Yeah.
Michael McDonald, um, Gregory Horton and Danny McFarlane were like my unks. And like they took me under their wings as a youngster, you know what I mean? So like that helped me to like really mature fast in the game. So when I got to like my second Olympics at 24, 28, like the younger kids that were coming through, like I was able to like mentor them. Like even Shelly Ann Fraser, I remember Shelly Ann Fraser's first ever Jamaican team. A lot of people don't know this. In 2007, when she made the senior team for the first time, she didn't get to run. And I remember I saw her in the lobby in the hotel, and she was so distraught, like, oh, I didn't get to run, you know what I mean? And because of my experience of what I went through when I was young, I was able to tell her, Shelly Ann, don't worry about it. Your time is going to come. Just lock in, stay focused. You're young now, you're fresh out of high school, making the world championship team. This was 2007 in Osaka. And
Yeah.
she was just shaking her head. She was just like kind of sad. The following year, Carson, she won the Olympics in '08 for the first time. You get
Unbelievable.
me?
I get you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I see the same thing. The same thing kind of happened with Usain when Usain at the '04 Olympics, his first one, I think he was like 17 or 16, something crazy like that. He was disappointed. He ran at his first Olympics. A lot of people he didn't know he ran. He didn't even make it through the heats. And I was
Yeah.
one of the guys on the team that tell him, like, don't worry about it, man. Like, your next Olympics, you're going to do well. Next Olympics in '08, 3 gold medals.
I
So
mean,
the
yeah.
unks, the unks of the sport, like the pro guys, the college kids, try to mentor some of these high school kids. Tell them they're going to be great. Tell them because they're the future. And I could tell you one thing from experience. Destiny in life is a very strong thing. We don't know what you're going to be destined to be. So if you're an older athlete, just stay positive to younger athletes. And you never know the advice you give them, what they're going to be tomorrow. And I experienced that being a mentor and having kind words for Usain and Shelly Ann when they were young on the Jamaican team for the first time. I was there you know, I was probably 24 or 28. At that age, they were 19, 20. I was giving them advice like, yo, I remember I saw Shelly Ann last year in Jamaica, and I reminded her, I said, hey, you remember in Osaka in '07? Your first time on the team, I said, hey, don't worry about not running on the 4x1. Your time would come. And she said, yeah, Sanjay, I remember. You know, now she just retired at what is she like 38 years old or something crazy. unheard of her longevity in the sport at the top. You know?
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Hey, happy to see Alisa Felix coming back too,
Yeah,
Carson.
that you got me thinking
42
about
years
that,
old.
right? Yeah. And you got me thinking about her breakthrough story, right?
Yeah.
Allison
I would
coming up
love to know
her
her goals.
and what I loved about her announcement and coming back to the sport is that she admitted she really doesn't know how this story is going to end, but she doesn't want it to end just yet. She's ready to explore that possibility, and she's been through those competitive experiences where runners and great athletes like Veronica Campbell Brown, VCB, were her kryptonite for the longest time. But ultimately, it was that competition, just like we've seen with all the great Jamaican athletes, your mentors, athletes you've mentored, that have made them better in the long run.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
We hope to see plenty of that effect take place this weekend at Morgan State University. I mean, I think you covered really a lot of incredible bases in that latest response, just about your journey
Yes.
getting to collide with some of whom we know to be not just the greatest athletes in Team Jamaican history, but the greatest athletes in Olympic history. Not just track and field history, but athletics history. I
Yes,
mean,
yes.
you've been on that collision
And like,
course,
yeah,
and the vision is still building. Do you have any long-term goals? I feel like I've asked you this at different stages, but now that your vision has continued to develop, where do you see this vision going beyond year five of the
yeah,
East Coast
yeah.
International Showcase?
Try, trying to not repeat myself because I do so many of these interviews,
Yeah,
and I
right.
don't want to be
Yeah.
repetitive.
I don't want to set you up on a
But great,
constant
great,
feedback loop. Go
great,
ahead.
great, great question, Carson. What I want to do, maybe next year, I want to bring some ambassadors of the sport back, some of the OGs, some of the unks, some of the aunts to come back to the East Coast International Showcase as mentors, and just make appearances and get them involved in the meet. The Shelly Ann Fraser Prices, the Usain Bolt, some of the great Americans, Sonia Richards, Alisa Felix herself, if she's available, come back and talk to some of the young athletes because I remember the impact it had on me when I was young.
Yep.
So yeah, yeah,
Well, for those of you watching this that would like to meet for yourself some of the greatest athletes in track and field history, why not go ahead and comment a suggestion down below? Or you can head over to eastcoasttrackandfield.org to get in contact with Sanjay and his great team. Follow ECIS_showcase. I mean, there is so much to suggest, so much endless possibility. The sky is the limit for your great creation, Sanjay. And I appreciate your time once again for joining me on this latest episode of In Full Stride. Do you have anything else that you'd like to cover while we send you away on a great busy week of preparation?
yeah. Of course, absolutely. What I have to say is, all the fans, if you're in the DMV area or close by, Philadelphia, New York, New Jersey, Ohio, West Virginia, come out and support the East Coast International Showcase this weekend at Morgan State. If you're looking to purchase tickets, go on FreshTix.com, look up the East Coast International Showcase and purchase your tickets. Or you could go to our website, eastcoasttrackandfield.com. You'll find the meet schedule and all information related to the meet. See you guys on Saturday. It's going to be some amazing events. Looking forward to meeting with you guys.
Absolutely. And all the live coverage will be live on MileSplit and I believe Flow Track as well. Either way, the links will all be in the description for you to indulge and get the full experience of the fifth East Coast International Showcase hosted by Sanjay Ayre, hosted, directed, founded, everything. Again, thank you so much for your time and best of luck with everything. Cannot wait to see what happens.
Thank you, Carson.
Yes, sir.